All right, it's been 2 days, so now we're ready to get started on part 2, which is collecting data from the Kirby-Bauer diffusion test. So step 30 says check the Kirby-Bauer diffusion plate for bacterial growth, which should appear as a white film covering the agar. If no growth is observed, continue to incubate for another 24 hours. So here's my plate. And you can see there's a lot of growth here and here and here and here. But within the zones of inhibition, you're not going to see any growth. You just want to make sure that outside of those zones, it is growing very strongly. So these aren't growing as strong, but this is growing very strong. So I would suspect that I did get a good lawn. So now we're at step 31, which is wipe down your work area with bleach. So I'm just going to use my 10% bleach solution. All right, so now we're at step 31. Wash your hands thoroughly. So I will go do that. All right, so I've washed my hands. Now we're at step 33, which is put on your goggles, gloves, face mask, and apron. All right, so I have my goggles, gloves, face mask, and apron on. So now we're at step 34. Gather the developed Kirby-Bauer diffusion plate and the ruler. So here's my plate and here's my ruler. And then step 35 is take a photograph of your plate. And step 36 is upload that image to photo 1. And then step 37 is without removing the lid to the plate, measure the zone of inhibition around each disc by placing a ruler over the center of each disc and measuring the diameter of the zone with no bacterial growth. So for this part, I suggest getting a fine or an ultra fine point Sharpie. So the one that has this tiny little edge. And just drawing the zones around the discs. So these plates are really small, so the zones of inhibition have overlapped, and I suspect yours will have very similar results. So we'll just have to estimate where these zones are. So the first one that I can tell is pretty easy to identify is the gentamicin. So I'll just draw that zone of inhibition out. So I'm not I think you can tell. Let's see if it looks better under. Yeah, that's probably easier to tell. So the next one that I can clearly see the edges is probably this novobiacin, even though the culture has been inhibited outside of the zone of inhibition. So I'll just draw that one out. And you just kind of have to estimate the rest of it based on the curve that you can see. So we see that there's an overlap like right in here. So now we will do the penicillin. So I see like an edge here and I can kind of see an edge here. So I'll just estimate that zone of inhibition. And then you just carry it over. And I'll put a white piece of paper underneath so you can see the zones. All right, so I have circled my zones of inhibition, and now we're ready to measure them. So I'm going to use millimeters, so these are centimeters, and so each little tick mark is a millimeter. So like 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. So let's start with the gentamicin. So you just want to find the largest area, and that looks like, so it's looking like it's 20 millimeters or 2 centimeters. So now we'll move on to the novobiocin. So you also want to do it in areas that you know you're confident about the zone of inhibition. And then you also want to go through the middle of the disc so that you know you're getting the center. So this one, I would say it's 26 millimeters. It might be 25 millimeters. And so now we'll look at penicillin. So this one looks like it's about 33 or 34. Actually, it's looking like it's 34 millimeters or 3.4 centimeters. So that's how you measure these. And like it said, if you're not seeing the growth on the outside of the zone of inhibition, you'll probably just want to grow your plate a little bit longer, because the zones of inhibition will get more obvious over time. So once you're done, you'll just want to record your measurements in data table 1, and then we're ready for cleanup. So for cleanup, it says place the agar plate in bleach for 20 minutes before disposing of in the garbage. And since we're just doing one plate, I'm going to do this in a cup. Also because I'm running low on bleach. But all you need to do is submerge it. So you'll submerge it in the bleach. And then after 20 minutes, you can take it out and dispose of it in your garbage. And then it says wipe down your work area with a 10% bleach solution and wash your hands thoroughly. All right, so now we're done. So I will wipe down my area and wash my hands. And then in 20 minutes, I'll dispose of my plate in the garbage. I'll just let this air dry.